Well, we're back here in New Brunswick after a very entertaining first half of college basketball from Dayton, Ohio in the NCAA tournament play-in round. The Rutgers Scarlet Knights leading the Notre Dame Fighting Irish 41-36 at the break. Eddie Kalegi alongside Brett Hawn to take you through this halftime report. A quick look at a couple of the stats that really jump out. Both teams shooting the ball very well. An offensive battle so far. As I'd mentioned in my prediction, I thought both teams were going to get over 70 points. Both looking to firmly be heading in that direction here. Rutgers shooting 58% from the field. Notre Dame just a tick behind at 55. Both teams with a couple of three-pointers. Not many fouls. Rutgers has only had one free throw attempt. The Fighting Irish with 3. Rutgers out-rebounding the Fighting Irish by 4. Scarlet Knights -1 in assists. Both teams pretty clean as well. 5 turnovers for the Scarlet Knights, 4 for Notre Dame. But Brett, the scoring, it's really been all about Caleb McConnell. 18 points. This is his season high. Just in the first half, his previous season high was 16 points all the way back on November 30th against Clemson. It's been a long time. And we were looking at the stats of how much he struggled early in the season. 4 of the first 6 games of the year, he didn't make a single field goal. So the Ohio native coming up clutch, 8 of 9 from the field in the first half. Also has 3 rebounds, an assist, a steal. Really doing it all for this team. And you pointed out as well when we were watching how Notre Dame's defense has had to adjust, and we're actually seeing Caleb McConnell, the defensive specialist, being the one that's getting double-teamed.
Yeah, that was the craziest thing. As we were watching the television broadcast, Rutgers has been doing a very good job all game of moving the ball around on the perimeter and getting good looks at the rim. Now, the craziest thing to me, as you just said, Eddie, was that when Caleb McConnell was dribbling to the right corner, he immediately got doubled in the corner. Now, that's something you don't see. A lot of the times throughout the season, because he's not the best offensive player, you get guys sagging off on the perimeter, trying to cut off the passing lanes. They're giving him the respect, especially after he's already surpassed his season total, or his season high in points already. He had 16 against Clemson. Like you said, he's got 18 at the half already. I mean, the man's going off. Now, the other thing of note is that Rutgers has 3 offensive rebounds. 2 of those are from Caleb McConnell. And those Caleb McConnell offensive rebounds did lead to buckets. He is setting the tone for this team. He's doing amazing on an individual basis to not only score, but to rally others around him on defense and keep the energy and hustle up on offense. That's one of the main reasons why they've had 41 points. And honestly, Eddie, I think the craziest thing is that, looking at the stats here, 1 combined free throw. Rutgers is 1 for 1. Notre Dame 0 for 3. We've had 4 total free throws this entire game. So it's just been a back-and-forth, high-octane game by 2 very fast offenses. And it's been really fun to watch, and shooting is a big reason why Rutgers is up by 5 at the half.
We have seen a couple of explosive defensive plays, most notably an Andre Hyatt block. Mawat Mag also with a block off the bench. But Cliff Amore struggled a little bit on the defensive side, has found himself getting bodied around a lot. And a lot of that is due to Paul Atkinson Jr. We've seen Prentice Hub setting him up. Hub has 5 assists. Atkinson with 16 points to lead the way for the Fighting Irish. 8 of 10 from the field, also has 4 rebounds and an assist. What can Rutgers do to try to mitigate the damage that Atkinson is causing in the second half and adjust their defense to try to stop Notre Dame from getting these easy looks down low?
Yeah, and first and foremost, going into this game, the broadcast team was alluding to it while they were out. Chris and Dylan were alluding to it while they were out there, and we kind of had a feeling in studio too that the main key was going to be stop the 3-point shooting, right? Notre Dame is 2 for 7 from 3 at the half, 29%. Now, do you think that's sustainable? I don't know. I mean, it's hard to tell. There's an entire half left. I'm sure they're going to be looking for it more, especially since it's a source of strength in a game where they're already down. But, Paul Atkinson, very unexpected. I mean, we know Cliff at times has struggled with foul trouble, but for the most part, he's been a really good athletic defensive big. He's been struggling. They've been spacing out their shooters well enough that Paul Atkinson is able to get single coverage in the paint, and it's led to easy looks for him. It also helped that Cliff Amore had 2 early fouls and he had to sit out. That also led to guys like Mawat Mag, Andre Hyatt coming into the game earlier than Steve Pikiell probably wanted to. But the key, I think, if you're playing in a zone, it's up to the wings near the block to move down a second earlier, cut off that either cut off a passing lane if they're cutting, or if they have the ball in their hands, that gives them a second to kind of pause and like debate whether they want to drive into the paint and continue their effort to shoot or to pass out. That moment hesitation can lead to turnovers, and I think it's important just to disrupt the flow of the offense, even for a microsecond, can make a huge difference in a close game like this, Eddie.
And so huge, too, for the Scarlet Knights that they haven't had to lean on a sole scorer. Against Iowa in the Big Ten tournament game, they became a little too dependent on Geo Baker. And, I mean, Geo Baker was feeling it in that game, don't get me wrong. But in games where Rutgers depends on just one guy to carry the offensive load, most of those games have been in the 13 losses that they've had so far this year. Today, though, Caleb McConnell has stepped up. Ron Harper Jr. also in double figures with 11. Also very efficient, 5 of 7 from the floor. Geo Baker's hit a pair of threes. He's got 6. So they're mixing it all around. Everybody's getting involved, and the fact that this offense is working so cohesively is a big reason why our Rutgers team, which struggled to score so much earlier in this season, has consistently put up big numbers offensively throughout the Big Ten slate and have 41 points here at halftime.
They're playing at their pace, Eddie. That was the key from the very beginning to winning this game. Playing at their pace, dictating tempo, not settling for ISO looks and spreading the ball. They're doing that. Caleb McConnell's offensive resurgence this game is the huge reason why Rutgers is allowed to do this. The defense has to pay attention to him. They have to respect him on the perimeter. What happens? They respect him on the perimeter. The other guys get less defensive attention. They're able to move more freely to their spots. What happens when you move more freely to spots? You get better shots. What happens when you get better shots? You convert more opportunities. We're seeing it with Rutgers. It's a huge reason why they're shooting 58% from the field going into this. Now, that percentage probably is slated to dip a little bit. That's a very, very, very fast start. It's hard to sustain it. But if they can even do like 3/4 of that, I see no doubt that they're about to have a very similar second half in that regard. And it's not like, it's not like Caleb McConnell scoring. The other guys are doing poorly. I mean, like Paul Mulcahy has the worst not shooting percentage here, 1 for 3. He's only taken 3 shots. Mm-hmm. Geo Baker, 2 for 3 from beyond the arc. Huge. Cliff Amori, even though he's only played 8 minutes, 2 of 3, 4 points, 2 rebounds. Everybody's making an impact. Everybody's getting in and doing their part. And Rutgers, as a team, this is one of the cleanest first halves we've seen all season.
Now, quick question. Mike Bray, one of the top coaches in college basketball, Notre Dame's going to make some defensive adjustments to try to shut down Caleb McConnell. What does Rutgers have to do these next 20 minutes to sustain and move on to San Diego?
Just keep moving the ball. Go in. Don't be fazed by any changes they're making. They're going to come out with a more aggressive scheme the next half. They're definitely going to try to hone in on the ball handlers beyond the 3-point line, force them to make mistakes. The key is just to play at your pace, keep your head up. Always look for the open man. Keep cutting. Don't stop and good things will come. Mike Bray, it's like you're saying, one of the best coaches in college basketball. Is a huge reason why he's been coaching 22 years now. It's because of his pedigree. His teams fight to the end. And Notre Dame, even though they're down by 5 and they're not doing what they do best right now, which is 3-pointers, they're going to come out of the second half ready to go. And Rutgers has to be ready to match that intensity and claw out a win here to go to San Diego.
Yes, so that game would be against the 6th seed in this region, Alabama, the Crimson Tide. Always known for their football, but they have become a perennial contender in college basketball as well, especially since Colin Sexton played for them, that notorious game where they only had 3 or 4 players even on the floor when Avery Johnson was the coach, and they were able to keep pace thanks to Sexton. But let's take a look, final 2 minutes of our halftime show. 9 Big Ten teams in the tournament for the second year in a row. The Big Ten struggled overall as a conference in the tournament last year. 7 of the 9 teams bounced before the second weekend. Now, 11 seed Michigan, they are on the facing off with number 6 Colorado State tomorrow at 12:15. Iowa, Big Ten champs, 5 seed. They face off with Richmond, who got an automatic bid thanks to winning the Atlantic 10 championship. That is tomorrow at 3:10. Indiana and St. Mary's. We talked about that matchup on the pregame show. And then Ohio State faces the perennial Cinderella story, Sister Jean and Loyola Chicago. That is Friday afternoon, 12:15. Purdue faces the Ivy League champions Yale Friday at 2 o'clock. Kofi Coburn and number 4 Illinois face off with Chattanooga, who got in thrilling fashion with a buzzer beater to win their conference over Furman. That is Friday night at 6:50. Michigan State faces off with number 10 Davidson, second place in the Atlantic 10. And then Friday night, number 3 Wisconsin and Johnny Davis face off with number 14 Colgate. Brett, of these Big Ten teams, which do you see as most poised to go on a deep run here in March?
Ooh, that's a tough one because, I mean, right away, I thought there were 3 upset potentials. I mean, you got 2 in favor of the Big Ten and you got 1 not in favor. The one that's not in favor, Loyola Chicago could beat Ohio State, move on to the second round, where they would play Villanova. Then, Villanova, winner of Villanova game. Then, you got 2 teams that I think could be on the positive side of an upset in Indiana and Michigan, who, Hunter Dickinson has been a staple in the middle for Michigan. And even though they've had all the other issues, I think they're still going to come out ready to go. And Indiana all year, and even in years past, has done stuff that nobody thought they would do. So we'll see about that. But, I mean, I don't know. It's kind of tough because I don't really see any of these teams making, a run, to be honest.
Big Ten just beats up on each other. It feels like that's what happens every year, and you don't know which team's going to be the best.
That's exactly it. That's exactly why I'm having a hard time figuring it out, because I could see, I could see a team like Indiana who's powered by its guards, just surprisingly going to, the Sweet 16, pushing for an Elite 8, but then I could also see them losing in the round of 32. With Michigan, I don't think they're making it past the round of 32. Ohio State, I don't think they're making it past if they win, I don't think they're making it past round of 32 either. But, again, I could be wrong. But I just don't – none of those teams scream Cinderella for me this year, more so than years past.
Yeah, well, 8 teams from the Big Ten in the round of 64. Rutgers trying to become the 9th. Scarlet Knights up 41-36. Second half coming up on the other side of this break. We'll be sending it back to Dayton, Chris Tsakonas, and Dylan Allen. This was your Rutgers Halftime Report. We'll be back here at College Ave Studios for Nightline after the game. Eddie Kalegi with Brett Hawn. You are listening to Rutgers Men's Basketball on 88.7 WRSU FM New Brunswick.